Hello, class. My name is Renee, and I'll be conducting a social justice interview, briefly covering on the topic of DACA. For those of you who don't know what DACA is, it stands for the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It was passed in 2012 by President Barack Obama. What it does is it defers deportations of individuals who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children, and it approves them to work here. The requirements for DACA is you have to be under the age of 31 as of June 15th, 2012. You have to have came to the United States before reaching your 16th birthday. You have to have continuously resided in the U.S. since June 15th, 2007 up to the present time. You have to be physically present in the U.S. on June 15th, 2012 and at the time of making a request. You can't have any lawful status on June 15, 2012. You must be currently in school, have graduated or obtained a certificate of completion from high school, have obtained a general education certificate, or on an honorably discharged veteran of the Coast Guard or Armed Forces. And you can't be convicted of any felonies or misdemeanors. So now to get to the questions, before we start, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Dale Beams, and I'm a teacher here at Atlantic Technical Center and Technical High School.
Okay. Now to start off, in your own terms, define social justice and what it means to you.
Social justice to me means is implementing as best one can sort of the tenets of the golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, and within possibility and reason extend to them the same privileges which you yourself enjoy.
What role do you play when it comes to social justice?
I can't say that I'm especially active. I think I'm well informed, but I'm not a leader. I'm not a protester. I'm a voter, and so in that regard, I think I get my input into the system, but I certainly could be more active as well.
What made you agree to participate in an interview regarding this particular social justice issue?
Well, it's a very good current issue. The immigration situation continues to broil in turmoil here in the United States, and there's lots that people have to think about. And since there has already been legislation for DACA, one of the next questions is what will become of it, and following that, what will become of other immigration policy. Perhaps this will be some sort of precursor to the latter.
Have you witnessed changes in immigration policies from when you were a young kid until now?
Absolutely. When I was a young kid, the immigration policy was much more lax. It was a different era altogether because the flow of immigrants into the United States, both legally and illegally, was less strictly monitored than it is now. And so I have seen both the law change and people's opinions about the topic of immigration have grown quite pointed in the 60 years that I've been alive.
So the next question involves asking about a naturalized citizen, which is a person who came into the U.S. and underwent the process to actually become a citizen of the U.S. So how do you believe the lives of a naturalized citizen differs from the life of a recipient under DACA?
Well, so far, I mean, the first thing I would think is that a naturalized citizen has a lot less to worry about long term than a DACA recipient would have, because the DACA status is perhaps transient right now, or at least somewhat temporary. Whereas if you're a naturalized citizen, you've gone through a process, that process has been vetted, you have reached the goal that you have desired, and so you don't have to go through anything again. Whereas if you are a DACA recipient, it's still uncertain what your final classification will be.
Can you think of any benefits of DACA?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, as a country, we have been built upon the work of immigrants, and there is no doubt in my mind that many of the people that have been accepted into this program have already been contributing members of our society for a long time. Good students, good workers, good role models for other people that are in sort of their same path. So there's plenty of good that has come out of DACA recipients in the DACA program.
Can you think of any disadvantages of DACA?
Well, the uncertainty is one of them. It's, if I were a DACA recipient, I would want something a little bit more permanent. And it is somewhat of a stopgap measure in the sense that the overall question of what are we going to do about immigration and immigration policy and enforcement of immigration policy, which are very big questions. Those questions are still out there. But as a temporary measure, as a first step in providing some security for people who weren't aware of who were born here, not even aware of their own presence here at the beginning, I think it's a very good first step.
Many DACA recipients do not have access to government funding programs due to their citizenship status. Do you believe that government funding, such as FAFSA or health insurance, should encompass both citizens in America as well as DACA recipients?
That's a challenging question. I don't know if I know enough about it to really answer that, because if I look at my own case, I mean, I have access to health insurance through an employer, which is more a condition of my employment than it is of my citizenship. Mm-hmm. Health insurance is fabulously expensive, and to simply give it to everybody that shows up, I think, would be cost prohibitive. At the same time, the people that are in our country we want to treat well, and as a DACA recipient, that is certainly a very strong toehold upon this country. So it's something that merits more study, and I don't think that I'm the best one to answer that question, yay or nay.
So as a corrections nurse, I see a lot of immigrants in jail. They do crime just as all of us do, and they do have to go through the same process here when it comes to criminal punishment. When you ask them about how jails are and how prisons are in their home country, it's a lot different from the way they are here. For example, how you present in your home country to jail. Let's say you got arrested, you have nothing, you don't have a family, you don't have food, you don't have nothing. You basically go through the prison system with nothing. Well, as with here, it's like we give you the food, we give you the bed, we give you the clothes. So how do we deal with DACA recipients who receive criminal charges in America? Should they serve the terms here, or should they be deported back to their home country?
I think that is something that needs to be determined more on a case-by-case basis. I think it depends on the magnitude of the offense. Certainly one of the things that I would like to see is that a DACA recipient, again, who is here through no conscious decision of their own, I realize, but is nonetheless here with somewhat of a different standing than somebody who was born American citizen, whose parents are citizens. I think that there is an obligation to stand up to the law of the land and our rules and regulations, and that if it's traffic misdemeanors or small-time drug offenses or something, that those aren't deportable. But if it's something that perhaps has an intensely negative impact on those of our community, then I would consider deportation. Just to underline, to emphasize the fact that we give a lot through the DACA program, and as you mentioned, the United States gives a lot in many ways, but we also can't give infinitely, and those privileges extended need to be looked upon just that, as privileges.
Citizenship status can affect your opportunities for federal jobs, including positions in office. For example, a DACA recipient could never run for president because they were never born here. Do you believe that DACA recipients should be allowed to work federal jobs or be appointed to office regardless of their citizenship status?
I do. I think that those questions are merit-based questions. I think that so long as somebody is qualified for the job, perhaps they'd be better qualified than a U.S.-born person whose parents were citizens. But, we are still very much a meritocracy, and there is a lot that is just determined by how qualified you are for your position, right? You're young, but you started your position based on your qualifications. And I don't see any reason that for those types of federal jobs and offices, that somebody that has lived here all their life, knows the country as well as I do in many regards, couldn't do as good a job or a better job than someone whose parents were born here in the U.S.
That concludes our interview. Thank you so much for participating, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Renee. Glad to help out.